Hi folks, this is Barry with Barry's 8-Track and Classic Car Radio Repair, and today is a very unique video of mine in that I'm not going to be demonstrating a customer's repaired unit. Instead, I'm going to focus on one of the reasons that I do not allow customers to write me or call me for status requests. And one of those reasons is because I have the exact order of their unit on my job status page of the website, so they should not even need to call me because all the information is right there, much more information than I could possibly provide in a phone call or a quick email. But anyway, that's kind of beside the point right now. What I'm engaged in at this time is the first thing I'll say is that since mine is the world's only dedicated 8-track repair shop, it's pretty much up to me to come up with solutions for parts that are no longer available for a lot of these 8-track units. I don't think there's any question that I know more than anyone else in the world about 8-track machines because I fix about 200 of them a year, sometimes even more than that. I get basically all brands, makes, models, and styles. I've gotten Weltron Spaceballs and the Brother Aquatron egg-shaped deal. I've gotten the Brother, I even forgot what the name of it was, but it's some huge weird little weird 8-track. I also repair the 8-track players from arcade games for customers all over the country, and basically if it has an 8-track in it, I'm pretty much the guy they seek. There's no one else in the world for me to turn to for advice when I have a problem with an 8-track player and I need to develop a solution. And that's what we're working at right now. What I'm working on currently is the Ford AM/FM quadrasonic 8-track player, and this is one of them here. They all pretty much look like this. Now some versions of this model uses 5-pin output chips that are still available, but other versions use this really strange 9-pin chip that cannot be found anywhere, and they just have not been available for years because there weren't many of them needed when they were in production, and so there's not any spares around to be found. So it's up to me, Barry Phone, owner of Barry's 8-Track Repair, to come up with these solutions so that the customers can still keep their 8-tracks on the road and operating properly. So I'm about halfway, or I believe I'm about halfway through actually designing a substitute output section for this 4-channel 8-track player, and to that end, I first thought about using 2 of the Aurora FM conversion modules because they really have fantastic amplifiers in them. But since they are only designed for a stereo operation, I mean, even though they have 4 speaker outputs, they can still only accept 2 inputs. The thought of installing 2 FMR boards in a customer's unit, for one thing, the parts cost alone, my cost, is going to be about $350. So when you add in the labor and all that, we're looking at about probably $700 or even more to use that solution to fix these Ford 8-track players, quadrasonic 8-track players. So looking for a more feasible solution, I came up with the idea of just taking the output chip that's used in those FMRs, because that is a true 4-channel output chip, and you might be able to see it right here. I can probably get my overhead cam in on this. Let's just take a look at this thing, see if I can get the old overhead cam going on here. I'm going to go through a couple of different cameras here before we arrive at the right one, I'm sure. Okay, I'm in the wrong channel, so let's try this again. Okay, there's my overhead camera, and now let's see if I can move this thing to where that camera is. I guess I got to find it with my arm first. Well, maybe I guess I've got the wrong camera selected. Let's try this again. Okay, there's the overhead camera I was looking for. Alright, now we can see a little closer view of this amplifier that I'm kind of working on here. This that you see mounted on top of this little block of aluminum, that is the a chip similar to the ones used in the FM conversion modules, and since I am only working with the chip and not the entire module, I can get to all the individual inputs and outputs and make this a true 4-channel amplifier setup. So let's go back to our previous view, or whatever that might have been, and we'll let you see this. And what I've done so far is naturally we have the output chip wired. I had to solder 25 wires to the output chip. There are no sockets available for these that I know about, so I just had to solder wires onto them. And then when you need to build a new solution of this magnitude, you just don't do it in the customer's unit. That's just a ridiculously time-consuming endeavor. There's a chance that you can, burn out other parts of that customer's unit, and it's just because you have to have the unit assembled to operate it to see how you're doing. Any adjustment you need to make or any part you need to change, you have to take the unit all apart again, and that's just silly. So when engineers design a new product, they generally do it in a prototype type thing like I've got here, where you have I have control of the input levels of all 4 channels. I can tack on anything I need to tack onto it, and so that's a good time to point up what I've done here so far. Right now, I've got this 4-channel output chip running from the output of one of my tape head preamps, and that worked just fine, but it didn't really produce quite enough volume. I didn't think it was going to be loud enough once we got it installed into that 4 unit, because we don't know what the levels are in that unit. Back then, they didn't have like line inputs and outputs to interface with other pieces of equipment, so the line level signal did not need to be the standard 1-volt line level signal. They could have made it 5 volts or half a volt. But at any rate, we have to be able to satisfy all possible needs at this little prototype stage before we even try it in the actual unit. And one thing I'll mention, and this is one bit of pressure that I go through that results me in my not being able to respond to individual how's the job coming inquiries, is that this stuff takes time and it takes concentration. And since I am not aware of the need to do this until a customer's unit comes in needing the engineering work, I'm under a lot of pressure because the customer's waiting for his unit, and I really can't say how long it's going to take until I found the solution, until I have actually got the whole thing put together, assembled, and working in that unit. Then I can finally say, okay, now we've got a solution for this unit, and that'll stand for all time. Anytime I get that unit in, needing a new output section, I've already got it designed and built and matched to that equipment. So here's what I've done so far. My single preamp board coming off here's my little experimental 8-track player, just a little Mitsumi chassis, and I've got the head feeding a preamp here to boost the level a little bit more, so that we can get a little bit more volume out of the main amp. And so what I've got so far is, let's see if I can get this thing, figure out why it's not working at the moment. There's always a silly reason. Okay, we got power, we've got all 4 speakers hooked up. Let's cycle the power in case that's the problem. Okay, well, I've run into a little situation here. Alrighty, we've got power to the unit. Okay, it was working just a while ago. This is not the least bit unusual to have little, okay, we know we're getting signal from that point on, so why are we not getting it into this point here? It's got to be something silly that I'm overlooking. So let's just let's try cycling our power again. That's often the cause of these things shutting down. Feel the output shift. No, it's not getting hot, so that's not the problem. Oh, I know what the problem was. I didn't have the tape pushed in. Okay, so here we go. Let's turn this thing all the way down again. We're going to push the tape in so it plays through my new amplifier design, and we'll see what I got so far. Alrighty, so at this point, we're going to take a look at our output level meters, and as you can see, if I can find the output level meters, there we are. Alrighty, as you can see, that's pretty much pegging my meters, and I just barely had the volume up. I mean, here is the, go back to our unit here, and you can see these volume controls are almost all the way down. So when we go to crank it, we'll just crank the right side real quick, just very briefly. And this puppy's really cranking. Okay, so I am now convinced that my new amplifier design is going to work. We know that it produces sound, we know that it cranks, we know that it sounds good, but we have not yet put it in the actual unit that is going to be that it's going to be going into, and that unit, it could be a whole new can of worms we're opening up once we feed the output of that unit into the input of this amplifier. Unit may have way too much signal, it may have way too little signal, and further tweaks will be necessary. I've already got adjustments. We've got our four basic, output level adjustments. That's just to kind of, determines how loud the speakers are going to be. But we've also got, now these are both stereo. For right now, I'm just working with 2 channels. There's no need to work with all 4 when I'm just, researching a design and tweaking performance. So we've got a 2-channel amp going here. Eventually it will be a 4-channel amp. And this is the point that I'm at right now. And so the next step is I think everything's going to be okay, but we still need to actually hook the customer's unit up to this little setup here and make sure it still works. I'm sure that I'll need to tweak a few more things. I've got my level adjustments here. I've got an input level adjustment. This is actually a part of the feedback loop in my first preamp, and then I've got the same control in the feedback loop in the second stage, and in between those stages I have just a couple of just simple trim pots just to knock the level down, because if I had this thing running wide open into this, you'd have terrible distortion, because this board is designed for a mic level input, and at this point it's line level, which is much more than that. So I had to put these controls here to knock it down, and so it's just a continuous process of experimentation and doing research and just playing around until you've got something that works correctly. And this can easily take a day, 2 days, a couple of weeks. You never know how long it's going to take. So when the customer calls and says, well, hey man, how's my unit coming, how much longer it's going to be, I just had to say, look man, I don't know, but you need to let me get back on the bench and get off the phone here so I can continue work on it. So this is just one of many reasons that I simply cannot spare any time for something as silly as a progress report when it's already right there on my job status page that they can see exactly where they are in the line. So this is one of the reasons that, and this is just one of many situations I run into in which I have to find a solution for out of production parts. So I'm, being the top 8-track guy in the world, I think that's pretty much undisputed, and I think I can probably prove it that I've got the most experience of anyone else in the world working on 8-track players, since that is my primary occupation. It's up to me to do this. So the last thing in the world I need is for customers to say, hey man, I got to get this thing back in my car. I'm driving around with a hole in my dash. With a hole in my dash. I'm going to say, buddy, I'm sorry, but this is just the way it is. There's nothing I can do until the darn thing's working. So this is just one of the many reasons that I do not allow customers to interrupt my work, or to let customers, 20 different customers pull me in 20 different directions. Get my unit back, get my unit back, get my unit back, and say, sorry sir, in this shop things have to go my way or they simply cannot go at all. It's beyond my capabilities to juggle all these balls and still answer every customer's letters. Why hasn't the list changed today? It's like, well, maybe I took a day off. Maybe I'm human. Maybe I have a family. Maybe I like to eat supper. Maybe I like to sleep once in a while. There's just a zillion reasons why a job is not going through the shop as fast as the customer thinks it would. And I am not about to explain every single time a customer thinks something should be moving along faster. This is my world. This is a world that no one else ventures into. No one else comes up with these types of solutions in this kind of depth, to be able to keep every 8-track player possible on the road and operating. So there we go. So let's just listen to my amplifier one more time, just for fun. And since this is just a basic chassis, I don't have a track change mechanism hooked up or anything. It's just going to play the same track over and over. Right now I just want to get some music into this thing instead of test tones, because naturally test tones are not what you're listening to in the real world. We have to make sure that this thing's going to work with music tapes and sound good. So on that hopefully happy note, I hope that I've done sufficient explaining for customers to stop and go, well, yeah, maybe maybe the job's a little bit tougher than I thought it might be. I thought it was just going to be, he throws in a new transistor and it's ready to come back. And no, it's not nearly that simple. It requires, in some cases, extensive design work and I simply don't have the time or the patience to deal with a customer who's all hot under the collar and is only worried about getting his unit back when there's many units in front of his that customers have paid for and sent in also. So I'm sure that I come off to some people like a prick or whatever you want to call it, but that's just the way it has to be sometimes. So, that being stated, this is Barry, the world's most recommended and competent 8-track technician, offering my services to anyone who has an 8-track player in need of service or a classic car AM radio that they would like converted to FM, with the possibility of also adding Bluetooth, USB reader, and a heck of a lot more output power, as I've just demonstrated with my own design with an 8-track player. So you can reach me directly if you need to at 928-533-9666. My website is barrys8trackrepair.com. That's BARRYS number 8 trackrepair.com. And my other website, since I also work on classic car radios, my other website is simply classiccarradiorepair.com. Thank you very much for watching or listening. Do not write me or call me for a status report on your unit, or it will be sent back unrepaired with a refund. That's just the way it has to be to keep my shop up and running and to keep everybody's 8-tracks on the road, not just yours. Okay. Thank you very much for watching and listening, and we'll see you next time.